Today I will guide you to draw a simple but soft and lively stork suitable for both beginners and those who are familiar with painting. Prepare drawing paper pencils, erasers, and if you want, you can prepare some watercolors or colored pencils to complete the work in your own style. Now let's start with the most basic lines and gradually build the shape of the stork standing still on the calm water surface. First, imagine the overall shape of the stork you want to draw. You can imagine it standing on one leg, its neck slightly curved in an S shape, and its beak pointing slightly forward. This pose creates a feeling of elegance that is very typical of storks. Once you have finished imagining, use a pencil to sketch a very light curve to position the neck. Don't worry if the first line is not beautiful, yet we are just establishing the structure. Let the neck of the stork start from the top center of the paper and draw a smooth curve down to the body. The most important thing is to keep this curve soft, smooth, and continuous so that when finished, the neck shape looks natural. Next, sketch the stork's head with a small oval at the top of the curve you just drew. To make the head look slim and neat, as is typical of storks, you should not make it too round. Once you have the head, extend a slightly pointed straight line from the front to form the beak. Storks' beaks are usually long and thin, so draw it as a long triangle with a sharp tip. When looking back, the head and beak should feel balanced, not too big or too small compared to the neck. Now we move down to the body. From the end point of the neck curve, sketch a shape that resembles a large teardrop or a tilted egg. This will be the main body of the stork. To make the drawing look soft, you should keep the curves rounded and even. Imagine the stork's white feathers are folded over the body, so the lines do not need to be sharp, just elegant and have a slight puff. If you want to create a more relaxed pose, you can lean the body slightly forward, which will help the piece look more dynamic. Once you have the body, start adding the stork's signature legs. Draw a long line from the middle of the belly down. This will be the main leg the stork is standing on. Stork legs are very thin, so you can draw them with two parallel lines very close together. At the end of the leg, draw 3 long, thin toes pointing forward and add a small toe pointing back to complete the foot. Then draw the second leg slightly curved and place it a little higher, as if the stork is pulling its other leg up. This is a very typical stork pose standing on water. Now let's move on to the wings. Imagine the wings folded neatly along the body. You can draw the wings by drawing a long curve from the shoulder down near the tail. Then sketch the feathers with small overlapping curves. You don't need to be too detailed, just show the layering of the feathers to create a soft feel. The tail can be drawn with a few sharp strokes towards the back. Once the main structure is complete, go back to the head and add small details. Draw a small dot for the eye placed in the middle of the head but slightly tilted up to create a feeling of observation. Don't make the eye too big, as it will break the elegance. If you want to create a gentle expression, draw the eye in a slightly curved teardrop shape. Then use a light pencil to emphasize the outline of the neck and beak, making them sharper but still natural. Now add a gentle background around so that the picture doesn't look empty. Below the stork's feet, you can draw some light ripples to represent the water surface. Just thin, interrupted horizontal lines can create the feeling that the stork is standing on a quiet river or swamp. If you like, you can add some reeds or water lilies to make the scene more lively. Once all the shapes are defined, start the final step with bold strokes. Use a fine point pen or a darker pencil to trace the lines you want to keep. Take your time here, focusing on the softness of the lines. Parts like the neck, body, and wings should be kept light, while the beak and legs can be made darker to increase contrast. When tracing, pay attention to creating a rhythm to the drawing. Long lines should be continuous, not broken. Parts that need to be soft, like the feathers, can be made shorter. After tracing, use an eraser to erase all the extra sketches, keeping the clearest shape. At this point, your stork should appear bright and natural. If you like the black and white style, you can stop here. But if you want the drawing to have more depth, add some shading by using a pencil to lightly shade the underside of the neck belly and under the wings. These areas often receive little light, so a light layer of gloss is enough to create a volumetric effect. Next, if you want to add color, prepare a very light palette. Storks are usually white, so you don't need to fill the whole thing. You can mix a little light blue or light gray to fill in the shadows on the body. The stork's beak can be dark yellow or orange, depending on the style you are aiming for. Stork's legs are usually black or dark brown. When coloring, don't press too hard. Keep the color soft, like the sunlight gently covering the stork standing still in nature. Finally, look at the overall picture and add some small highlights, such as a few darker ripples, a few bright spots on the beak, or a few small feathers on the wings. These details don't need much, but will make the picture more soulful and complete. If you have followed this far, congratulations, you have completed your own elegant and delicate stork painting. Don't worry if your painting isn't as you want it to be. Drawing is a process of practice, and each work is a step forward. Next time you can try changing the pose, try drawing the stork in flight, or try adding more colors to create your own style. The most important thing is to enjoy each stroke and feel the relaxation that painting brings. Thank you for accompanying me in today's tutorial. If you want more simple, easy to understand, and creative drawing videos, please continue to follow me so that I can help you draw your own artistic world. Have an inspiring day. Today, I will be showing you how to draw a cute and expressive chimpanzee. This is a fun subject because chimpanzees have a lot of facial features that help us express emotions, from deep-set eyes to a wide nose and mouth that can create many different expressions. Get your paper pencil eraser, and if you want to finish with color, you can prepare some colored pencils or watercolors. There's no need to try to draw it perfectly from the start. The important thing is to get the composition, personality, and emotion of the chimpanzee you want to portray. Now let's get started. First, visualize the overall shape of a chimpanzee's face. Their faces are square but soft, with a wide forehead and a fairly large jaw. Start by drawing a large oval that is slightly squared on either side, like a slightly squashed egg. This will be the main frame of the head. Once you have this shape, divide it into two halves with a very light vertical line. This line helps us to position the eyes, nose, and mouth so that they are balanced. Then draw a light horizontal line slightly lower than the center of the face. This will be the line for the eyes. Now let's move on to the eyes, the most important element when drawing chimpanzees, because the eyes determine all emotions. Draw two small circles on the horizontal line you just sketched. Place them slightly close together to create an intelligent and focused look. You can draw the eyelids with light curves above and below the two circles, which will help the eyes look more realistic. Then in the middle of each eye, draw a small black iris, adding a small highlight to bring the eyes to life. Chimpanzee eyes tend to have a gentle but deep look, so be careful to keep the lines soft and not too bold at first. Let's continue with the nose. Chimpanzee noses are quite wide and sit lower than human noses. Draw a small line from the center of the eyes down and then widen them to form a wide U shape. Next, draw the nostrils using two small teardrop shapes that tilt slightly inwards. Chimpanzee noses tend to have lighter or shinier skin than the area around the eyes, so when you color them in later, you can take care to highlight them by leaving the area bright or using a lighter color. Now draw the mouth. The chimpanzee mouth is long and soft, usually represented by a slightly curved horizontal line. Depending on the expression you want to draw, you can give the chimpanzee a slight smile or keep the expression neutral. If you want to draw a smiling chimpanzee, slightly curve the sides of the mouth up and add a small curve in the middle of the lower lip to create depth. The corners of the mouth can be slightly wrinkled for a more natural look. Once you have the eyes, nose, and mouth, it's time to sketch in the facial structure. Draw the outline of the cheeks using soft curves. Chimpanzees have a slightly wide jaw, so you can open the lower part a little to create strength. Next, sketch in the forehead using a large curve that connects to the eyebrows. Add some curves under the eyes to simulate bags or folds of skin. This is what gives a chimpanzee's face its personality. Now let's move on to the ears. Chimpanzee ears are large and slightly rounded, lying at eye level and sticking out from the head. Draw two large ovals on either side, then add a few small circles inside to show the ear structure. These ears are what make your chimpanzee cute and recognizable. Once the face is complete, draw the head and the fur on the outside. Chimpanzee fur is thick, dark, and slightly shaggy. You can draw the fur around the face with short diagonal pencil lines, not too evenly spaced. Draw the fur as a ring around the entire head, from the forehead down to the cheeks and around the chin. Keep the lines in the direction of the natural growth of the fur to create a more harmonious drawing. Next, we'll sketch the torso. You don't need to draw the whole body if you just want to focus on the face. Simply draw two large curves from the sides of the head down to create the shoulders. Then add a few longer lines of fur running down, giving the impression that the body is covered in thick fur. If you want to add arms in front, you can sketch a slightly bent arm with simple outlines, focusing on the size of the chimpanzee, but the most important part is the face. Once the whole shape is clear, start tracing the lines with a darker pencil. The main contours, such as the face eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, should be lightly pressed to stand out. However, don't go too dark, as this will make the chimpanzee lose its characteristic softness. For the fur, you should trace it with short rhythmic strokes, not absolutely precise, just to show the roughness and naturalness. After tracing the lines, use an eraser to erase the unnecessary initial sketches. At this point, your chimpanzee portrait will become much clearer, sharper, and more natural. Next, add shading. The areas around the eyes, under the nose, under the lips, and on both cheeks are the areas that need shading to make the face more delicate. You don't need to shade too heavily, just use a light pencil and blend it evenly to create depth. Now it's time to color if you want to complete the painting in a color style. Chimpanzees usually have light brown gray or slightly pink faces depending on the individual, while the fur is usually dark brown or almost black. You can start with a light layer of color for the skin of the face, then gradually increase the darkness in the shadow areas. Pay attention to leaving highlights on the nose, forehead, and cheekbones to make the face look natural and light. For the fur, you can use dark brown or black, add a few light strokes to make the fur transition and look softer. If you want to make your character feel more emotionally present, focus on the eyes. Add some shading to the upper and lower lids. Increase the darkness in the irises, but keep the highlights so the eyes don't look too dark. The eyes are the soul of the portrait, especially when drawing chimpanzees, because they have a very human-like gaze. Finally, look at the picture as a whole. If any part is not harmonious, you can adjust it slightly, increase the shading here, soften the lines there, or add a few hairs to add more detail. Remember that a chimpanzee portrait doesn't have to be perfect. What's important is the emotion you convey through the eyes and expression. If you've made it this far, congratulations! You've completed a lively and soulful chimpanzee portrait. Drawing chimpanzees is a great exercise to help you practice your ability to observe faces, especially expressions. Next time you can try drawing chimpanzees from a side angle, try drawing chimpanzees, laughing loudly, or even draw a full body to practice more on proportions and posture. Thanks for sticking with me. If you want me to write more scripts for other animals, or to translate the script into a natural voice that sounds male, female, or warm, just let me know. Have a creative day.